in Katsina State, where mourners in their thousands gathered on Tuesday, July 15th, for the funeral rites of former President Muhammadu Buhari, who was laid to rest at exactly 5:50 p.m. at his private residence in Daura, following full military honors and Islamic rites. His body, draped in the Nigerian flag, arrived at the Umaru Musa Yar'Adua International Airport in Katsina from London and was received by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, Vice President Kashim Shettima, Katsina State Governor Diko Rada, and other prominent dignitaries, including foreign leaders like the President of Guinea-Bissau and the Prime Minister of Niger Republic. A solemn procession, accompanied by a military guard of honor and a 21-gun salute, transported Buhari's remains to Daura. Funeral prayers were held at a makeshift prayer ground before the interment in the compound of his private residence. Well, the burial was attended by a vast gathering of family members, top government officials, traditional rulers, and mourners from across Nigeria and beyond, including First Lady Senator Oluremi Tinubu, who was at the airport to receive Buhari's widow, former First Lady Aisha Buhari, former Vice Presidents Professor Yemi Osinbajo and Atiku Abubakar were in attendance, along with Governors Uba Sani of Kaduna State, Dapo Abiodun of Ogun State, Babajide Sanwo-Olu of Lagos State, and Africa's richest man, Aliko Dangote. Former Minister of Transportation, Rotimi Amechi, was spotted wearing a white turban, while the host governor, Diko Rada of Katsina State, was seen weeping throughout the interment. A notable photograph depicting President Bola Ahmed Tinubu bowing respectfully before Buhari's draped casket, highlighting the transfer of power and the final farewell to a significant figure in Nigerian history, has gone viral. What a solemn moment. Those visuals portray a moment of national mourning and respect for the former president. The presence of a large crowd at the funeral signified how much Buhari was loved, especially in his hometown of Daura. Young boys climbed trees just to get a glimpse of Buhari's final resting place, all paying their last respects to the former leader, who was described as humble and honest by his kingsmen. I mean, this was such a solemn moment. Yesterday, I was glued to the television by Rufai Adefemi. I really was touched with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's efforts and his gestures at the funeral, everything that he did there. I mean, performing Buhari's funeral rites in such a glorified manner should be really respected. But you know, the conversations on social media was loud yesterday. And I'll start with Muhammadu Buhari's close nephew and confidant, Maman Daura, who revealed to our sister publication this day that Buhari was in high spirits and was even making plans to return to Nigeria just hours before his death on Sunday, July 13th. Daura stated that he spoke and laughed with Buhari on Saturday, the night before, and he appeared cheerful. However, on Sunday, around midday, Buhari's condition suddenly worsened as he began experiencing breathing difficulties. Despite the efforts of doctors, he passed away around 4:30 p.m. Another conversation was Femi Adesina, a former spokesperson for the late President Muhammadu Buhari, who stated during a live television interview that Buhari would likely have died much earlier if he had relied on Nigerian hospitals for his medical treatment. Adesina defended the former president's frequent medical trips to London, stating that Buhari had consistently received medical care in the United Kingdom, even before becoming president in 2015. Let's take a look.
He always had his medicals in London, even when he was not in office. So it was not about the time he was president alone. He had always had it in London. And then you have to be alive first to get certain things changed or corrected in your country. If he had said, I'll do my medicals in Nigeria just as a show-off or something, he could have long been dead, because there may not be the expertise needed in the country. But he needed to be alive to be able to lead the country to a point where we will have that expertise. So those who glibly talk of going abroad, they don't know that a man needs to be alive first before he can effect a change.
I mean, this conversation went viral. You know, Buhari had spent at least 200 days in London for medical treatment during his 8-year tenure as president. I mean, these medical trips sparked public outcry regarding foreign medical tourism by public officials and the poor state of Nigerian hospitals. Well, let me take a tweet, I believe. The former president's death has elicited mixed reactions, reflecting several major controversies that characterize his time in power, both as a military head of state and as the democratically elected president. Key controversies, Adefemi, let me tell you. One was the raid of judges' homes in 2016. During his civilian presidency, the Department of State Services conducted controversial midnight raids on the homes of several senior judges alleging corruption. This action was widely condemned by critics as an attack on judicial independence. Then you remember when he talked about lazy Nigerian youths, that comment in 2018, his comment which implied that many Nigerian youths were content to do nothing, which sparked widespread outrage, and lazy Nigerian youth hashtag, if you remember that, highlighting a perceived disconnect between the government and the struggles of young people. Then there was the Twitter ban in 2021, following Twitter's deletion of one of Buhari's tweets for violating its policies. His government banned the platform in Nigeria for 7 months. Remember that? That was really a conversation that made a lot of young people upset. Many viewed this as an overreach and an attempt to stifle dissent, although the government cited national security concerns. Then there was the NSAS and the Lekki toll gate shooting in 2020. I believe this was a defining moment and arguably the greatest stain on his legacy. The nationwide protest against police brutality under the hashtag NSAS movement ended abruptly when soldiers opened fire on unarmed demonstrators at the Lekki toll gate. Buhari's subsequent televised address, which largely ignored the killings, further fueled public anger and widened the trust deficit. And of course, the Naira redesign debacle in 2023 towards the end of his second term. The sudden Naira redesign policy led to severe cash scarcity, causing widespread public frustration, economic disruption, and protests across the country. Then, of course, the extended medical trips, which we would like to highlight. These controversies significantly marred his time in office. Before I take a reaction, Adefemi, I'd like your thoughts on, basically the way I highlighted those controversies. And those controversies were the ones that trailed his civilian rule. There were other controversies during his military era, the Decree 4, the Maradiko. Absolutely. Your thoughts?
Well, I think that when we're looking at the checkered part of his legacy and his history, it is these examples, to use Rufai's words of empirical facts, it is these issues that people rely on and refer to when they speak negatively about his time as a democratically elected president. Just to focus on NSAS, because as you've said, that was the greatest stain on his legacy.
Yes.
And to this day, there are people who are affected who haven't even had the respect of the government, letting them know where the remains of their loved ones are. So imagine how they feel.
You being on the field.
Absolutely.
You were one of the people that reported the second NSAS.
The one-year anniversary at the toll gate. Yes. And unfortunately, we ended up finding ourselves in a clash with the police, which is, I guess, by the side of the issue, but it just underscores that that problem actually hasn't been tackled. That the police, even though they were legitimately hurt during the protest, the protests were because of them and their actions, and it remains an issue to this day.
Absolutely.
And for the people who died at the toll gate, this must be a slap in the face to watch a funeral. Not saying that he should not have had a state funeral, but it does reignite these feelings of unfairness. For many people, they feel as though the former president is responsible for the pain that they are still unable to get the real recognition for to this day.
All right, I'll take a tweet from Civil Rights International. They wrote on X, on the demise of the former Nigerian president, Muhammadu Buhari, while we send our condolences to his family and loved ones, his death is an apt reminder that politicians should learn that no amount of accumulated wealth in pounds and dollars, properties overseas, fame, power and control, access to the world's best clinics, nor a political party can prolong one's life when death comes calling. Man journeys home with absolutely nothing. Legacy is all that matters. Buhari will be remembered for ending Nigeria's Second Republic democratic rule abruptly in 1983 through a coup d'etat and leaving the country more impoverished in 2023 when he left office as civilian president than the situation he met in 2015 when he took over. Well, Daniel Bwala wrote, there is time for everything. There will be time for politics, but for the duration of time that President Tinubu declared for mourning, our departed former president would pay our respect to the great departed leader that this nation was lucky to have during his time in this life. The nation is still mourning the death of the people's general. May his soul rest in peace. Then there was also reports circulating on social media that claim that the late Muhammadu Buhari owned 5 properties located in Kaduna, Daura, Kano, and Abuja. His extensive agricultural holdings reportedly include farms, an orchard, a ranch with 270 cattle, 25 sheep, 5 horses, and various birds. Reports indicate that he approximately had $150,000 in his personal bank account, along with 30 million naira in a Union Bank account. He also held shares in Berger Paints, Union Bank, and Sky Bank. Or during a meeting with King Charles in the United Kingdom back in November 2022, the late former president disclosed that any property he had were acquired before he assumed office and expressed that he felt much freer when he had nothing.
And he asked me whether I have a house here. I say no. I have, even in Nigeria, the only house I have are those I had before I got into government. And I'm not very much interested in having, assets all over the place. I feel much more freer when I have nothing.
Now, we remember this video. I mean, we've always known that Buhari is a very simple man and frugal as well, they say. Well, also here's a compilation of unforgettable moments of the late former president, Muhammadu Buhari, who is considered one of the most humorous leaders Nigeria has ever had. Let's take a look.
What do you miss the most about being in office?
Miss? Oh, dear me. I don't think I miss much. You can only try. It's a terrific country. No matter what you do, there are people on daily basis that look for your faults and go to the press. So you have to learn to live by that.
Somebody said that I'm clone. No wonder I forgot it until I was reminded by it.
I was even called Baba Go Slow. No, those who are going fast, why did they go to?
I'm not going to demand any apology from anybody. What I'm demanding is the return of assets. This is what I'm asking for. What would I do with apology? I need something tangible.
I intend to keep my oath and serve as president to all Nigerians. I belong to everybody and I belong to nobody.
We have no other country but Nigeria. Anybody who thought he has any other country than Nigeria, goodbye. You can go. We are here and we are determined to rehabilitate our country, especially for our children and our grandchildren. I don't know which party my wife belongs to, but she belongs to my kitchen and my living room and the other room. I'm looking forward to tomorrow to fly to my base and go back to my cows and sheep, which are much easier to control than fellow Nigerians. I thank you very much indeed.
Buhari ti sọ̀rọ̀ wá ti gbọ́. 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 Ó tún yá ṣe bàbá, ṣe Buhari, ṣe bàbá, ṣe Buhari, ṣe bàbá, ṣe Buhari.
Your experience has been infectious. I don't know when I dance in public last. I thank you very much, and God bless all of us.
Say Baba. I love the way you all were laughing. I mean, for me, when he said, they call me Baba Go Slow. Those who are running, where have they been? I mean, he was really iconic with some of those notes that he dropped before he passed. Well, the late Muhammadu Buhari was loved by millions of supporters, both home and abroad, from the moment he became a civilian president in 2015 to the moment he returned to his home after his 8-year tenure as president, and ultimately to the moment he was laid to rest. Let's take a look.
King Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud permitted that the golden door of the Grand Kaaba be opened for President Muhammadu Buhari and his entire delegation to the holy city of Mecca. Consequently, the circumambulation of the Kaaba was virtually put on hold in the early hours of Friday as the Saudi security personnel created a barricade to allow the Nigerian leader and his team unfettered access to the Kaaba, considered as the center of the world and a replica of the House of Allah.
The general, may his soul rest in peace. Rufai.
May his soul rest in peace and continue to rest. Like I said for 2 days now, the death of every man diminishes us, John Donne. I mean, he was a humorous man. Buhari had quick one-liners. Audrey, this is even small compared to people that were with him in his closet. Buhari is one of quick-wit jokes about many things, like Al-Bashir did say yesterday. It was even part of his joke that made some Nigerians misunderstand him, you know. Was loved by his family, was loved by people in every the north. And you see, what we also forget is he was also loved a lot leading up to the 2015 elections in the south. He had a lot of goodwill. Where it was a cult following, he had a big cult following. I remember how they tagged February, the February when the elections were held in 2015. And definitely people know he was going to win. People came out en masse to vote. But there are two sides to the story. At first, Nigerians forgave him for all that transpired between 83-ish to 85. And he had a part of redemption. And he made mistakes again. I'll talk about the Umar Diko affair, where we used the Israelis to bring Umar Diko back in a crate. And that affair was botched at Stansted. And Britain felt that we're violating their sovereignty. That affair didn't just stop at Umar Diko. It led to impounding planes in both countries. And a lot of people have said it relates to it, but I don't think it relates to it. There's no real link. But you know, about a year after, that was when in February 86, that was when Britain stopped, you know, allowing free entry to Nigerians. You had to get a visa. That was a blight in our history. Also, Decree 4 for journalists. The way journalists were treated. If you were on the receiving end, it was not a good one. People that were beaten on the streets for why? War against indiscipline. That was not a good one. The governors that were incarcerated. And that's why, if you read the memoirs of Sir Bisi Akande, what he went through, and the fact that he could still even come around with Buhari to do this coalition thing, it was not an easy one for them. I remember how they had to sell him that he was a reformed Democrat. But Buhari did not show those vestiges when he got power. The way judges were arrested, you know, raided in the night, the things that happened, the way he allowed the economy of this country go down. It was a do-it-yourself recession. Nigeria had no problems. President Buhari for 6 months. At first, Mr. Femi Adesina, same Mr. Femi Adesina that has the temerity to tell us that he has, if he was a Nigerian doctors, he will have long passed.
Yes.
This same government that told us that they were clearing the Ogian stable. For 6 months, they didn't have ministers, so there was no leadership. And with due respect, Mr. Femi Adesina, it's best you don't even say things like that to us in Nigeria. Because the same hospital where Buhari died, there are Nigerians working there. What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? How about you talk about providing centers of excellence in Nigeria? When they set up the federal medical centers, we're not supposed to be centers of excellence. Which country that we like to compare ourselves with, when Boris Johnson was sick of COVID, he went to St. Thomas.
Yes, in London Bridge.
Trump goes to Water Ridge.
Exactly.
Why would you tell us something like that? And the fact is, Nigerians work in the hospital Buhari died. So are you thinking those Nigerians can bring their competency if we make it available for us to be able to do things properly? So don't tell us things like that. Then NSAS happened, which is unforgivable. We have never healed from NSAS. You see, healing comes from, and you remember you were right when you were talking about healing yesterday, but in response to healing comes from justice, Vimbai.
Truth, justice, and reconciliation.
People have not seen justice being done. Because I know what happened in NSAS. Yes, money was given. Money is not justice. Money for lives, limbs that were broken, 5-10 million naira, is that what will bring justice back? Justice is acceptance of hurts. So if Nigeria want to heal, leaders will learn to tell the truth. So we celebrate him, but his life also shows for other leaders coming at the back that, see, there's a lot of work to be done, and we must be careful.
Absolutely.